Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving straight into our source material to uncover why a super common nuisance on construction sites is actually a critical, active threat to both our projects and our health. We're taking a microscopic look at something we literally walk through, breathe in, and honestly often just completely ignore. Yep, we're talking about dust and dirt. And by the end of this explainer, you're going to see exactly why treating dust as just a minor annoyance is a massive mistake.
So let's just squash this myth right out of the gate, okay? Dust is not just part of the job. It's not just dirty. It is straight up dangerous. We really need to reframe how we look at this stuff. Dust is basically an invisible enemy that actively sabotages both the human body and multi-million-dollar equipment. When you see dust, you shouldn't just see a mess that needs sweeping up. You need to see a hazard that can literally compromise an entire project timeline and put your whole team in harm's way.
To get a handle on this, we're breaking down this specific toolbox talk guide to understand exactly how dust threatens operational efficiency, and more importantly, what we can do to stop it. This source material is incredibly practical. It lays out the direct impacts on workers' health, equipment functionality, and those all-important project timelines. It's absolutely crucial for things like electrical panels that are just sitting there, waiting for termination or commissioning. So we're going to extract the core lessons from this guide and build ourselves a rock-solid defense strategy.
Here is the game plan for today. First, recognizing the common hazards. Second, preventions and safety measures. Third, essential do's and don'ts. And finally, activating emergency response plans. Let's get into it.
Section 1. Recognizing the common hazards. The invisible threat to your body and your surroundings.
The hazards we're dealing with are both internal and external, and the human cost is immediate. On one hand, you've got these severe internal risks, right? Inhaling dust leads to serious respiratory conditions, not to mention immediate skin irritation and allergies. But take a look at that third bullet point. Accumulated fine dirt on floors creates slippery surfaces. We always tend to think of water or oil causing slip and trip hazards, but actually a layer of fine dust acts like thousands of microscopic ball bearings on a smooth concrete floor. It's a major physical danger, yet we almost always overlook it. And beyond human health, the threat bleeds over to our equipment and the broader environment. The crucial point to understand here is how dust interacts with high-value infrastructure. When dust settles on electrical panels, it actually acts as an insulator, which causes overheating. And worse, it can bridge connections, leading to short circuits or even massive fire hazards. If sensitive devices get contaminated, well, that leads to malfunctions and delays in commissioning, which throws off your whole project schedule. Plus, widespread dust clouds reduce visibility on site, drastically bumping up the odds of heavy machinery accidents, all while spreading to neighboring communities and causing major environmental issues.
Section 2. Preventions and safety measures. Deploying our defense strategy against site contamination. So, suppressing this threat really takes a step-by-step approach. You can't just cross your fingers and hope the wind blows it away. First, you've got to apply water misting or spraying to actively suppress airborne dust. You're basically weighing those particles down so they can't float into sensitive areas or into anyone's lungs. Second, install physical barriers or curtains to reduce dispersion. You want to contain the dusty work as much as possible. And third, and this is a relentless one, conduct daily cleaning routines. Remove debris from sensitive equipment areas immediately after work wraps up and dispose of it properly. Otherwise, you're just going to recontaminate the same area tomorrow.
Now, when it comes to sensitive electrical equipment, your defense has to be absolute. No half measures. You must cover panels and equipment with dust-proof protective sheets until they are absolutely 100% ready for use. And those temporary enclosures, they aren't just for show. They need to be kept meticulously clean and tightly sealed to prevent any dust infiltration. And hey, when you do need to clean these sensitive devices, you've got to use a vacuum cleaner or a soft brush. You want to extract the dust, not just shuffle it around.
Your personal armor is just as crucial as the site barriers. This means you must wear appropriate dust masks or respirators, especially when you're anywhere near dusty operations or handling sensitive gear. You're also going to need safety goggles to stop dust from getting into your eyes and blinding you during a critical task. But here is the detail that really separates the pros from the amateurs. Maintain the cleanliness of your PPE. If you walk from a dirty zone into a clean room wearing a uniform that's caked in dirt, guess what? You just became the contaminator. Clean your gear so you don't transfer the dust.
Section 3. Essential Do's and Don'ts. The strict rule book for mitigating dust on site.
This table, pulled right out of our source material, lays out the high-contrast rules we absolutely must follow to avoid project-delaying contamination. It is very black and white. Do cover and seal electrical panels. Do not leave them exposed. Do use appropriate tools. Avoid compressed air. Do wear proper PPE. Do not work without respiratory protection. Do conduct regular housekeeping. Avoid dry sweeping. Let's actually zoom in on a couple of the most frequently violated rules from this list.
Okay, this beautifully illustrates a massive misconception on job sites. You should always use a vacuum or a soft brush for dust removal on sensitive equipment. Never use compressed air. Look, I get it. It feels incredibly satisfying to blast a dusty panel with compressed air. But what are you actually doing when you do that? You are literally driving that fine dust deeper into the microchips and the wiring. You're forcing the saboteur deeper behind enemy lines. Vacuum it out. Never blow it in.
Similarly, take a look at our housekeeping methods. We want regular housekeeping, absolutely, but dry sweeping is strictly forbidden. Think about it for a second. When you take a stiff broom to a dry, dusty concrete floor, you aren't really cleaning up the dust, are you? You're basically just relocating it. You're kicking it up into the air, into the lungs of everyone standing around, and straight into the electrical panels across the room. It just puts the hazard right back into the air. Always use proper suppression methods, like wet sweeping or vacuuming.
Section 4. Activating emergency response plans. Fail-safe protocols for contamination and exposure.
Even with the best defenses, breaches happen. If dust breaches an electrical panel or sensitive equipment area, panic is not the answer. Protocol is. You've got to follow these 3 chronological actions. 1. Disconnect the power instantly to prevent those short circuits and fires we talked about earlier. 2. Clean the identified contamination using the proper tools. Again, vacuums, not compressed air. 3. Inspect it thoroughly before you even think about resuming operations. It is a strict lockdown, clean, and verify process.
Now, on the human side, if a worker is overwhelmed by dust exposure, whether that's sudden respiratory distress or severe eye irritation, the emergency response is clear. Immediately relocate them to a dust-free zone. Get them out of the hazard first. Then, thoroughly rinse their eyes, nose, and throat to physically remove the irritant. And most importantly, if the symptoms persist, do not hesitate to seek a medic for professional help.
This quote right here from the source material perfectly encapsulates everything we've broken down today. Proper dust and dirt management ensures health, safety, and operational efficiency. It proves exactly why we must respect the threat of dust. This isn't just a janitorial issue. It is fundamentally tied to the physical safety of your team, the integrity of some really expensive equipment, and ultimately, the financial success and timeline of the entire project. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to reflect on regarding your own personal responsibility the next time you step back onto the site. You now know the risks to human lungs and to critical equipment. You know the exact procedures for suppression, the right tools to use, and the fail-safe protocols for an emergency. So the next time you see a cloud of dust blowing across the site, will you turn a blind eye and ignore it, or will you step up and control it? The safety and success of the site might just depend on your answer.